So today we're going to dig into a series of Shakespeare's sonnets that tackle one of the most raw and painful human experiences out there, loving someone from a distance. But these poems aren't just about being sad. They're about the incredible creativity that can actually be born from that kind of separation.
I mean, it's a question we've all faced, right? Whether it's hundreds of miles or just a long day at work. We have texts, we have video calls, we send photos. But what happens when all of that just isn't enough to bridge the gap?
Well, 400 years ago, that's the exact problem Shakespeare's speaker was up against. There was no way to close that physical distance, so he had to find another way. And in the process, he basically created a map of the heart that still feels, well, shockingly modern. All right, let's get into it.
Okay, so first, we have to really get our heads around the core problem that's driving every single one of these poems. It's this deep kind of agonizing conflict between what the mind desperately wants and what the body can actually do. And this right here, this is the engine of the whole thing. See, the speaker's mind can zip across any distance and be with his beloved in a split second. But his physical body, it's just stuck, left behind. And that gap, that space between the wish and the reality, that's not just a source of pain, it's the very thing that sparks the poetry. It forces him to create.
What's so fascinating is how this is all visualized. Shakespeare is tapping into these old Renaissance ideas about the four elements. The body, made of heavy, slow things like earth and water, is literally weighed down, trapped. But the mind? Oh, the mind is made of light, swift air and fire, so it's totally free to go wherever it wants. And you have to remember, this wasn't just some clever metaphor. For them, this was science.
So how does the speaker try to solve this mess? His first move is to just lean into the power of his own mind, his imagination. The logic is, hey, if my body can't make the trip, maybe my mind can just do the job all by itself.
So in one sonnet, he discovers this wild paradox. He can actually see his beloved more clearly in his dreams than he can in broad daylight. Now, this idea comes from this really cool literary tradition of dream visions, where sleep wasn't just, being unconscious. It was seen as a different and often truer way of seeing reality. And here's the thing you have to get. When he talks about his body being made of earth and water, he means it literally. By the standards of his time, this was their natural philosophy. His physical form, his dull substance, is what's literally trapping him in one place. And this just lays it all out perfectly. He argues that his thought, which is air, and his desire, which is fire, can instantly fly to his beloved. Great, right? But what's the cost? Well, his body gets left behind with only the heavy, sad elements of earth and water. It basically sinks into this state of near death, what he calls being oppressed with melancholy.
And you can probably guess, this whole plan just completely falls apart. He gets this brief, fleeting moment of joy when his thoughts come back with news of his beloved. But that joy is so powerful, it immediately sends his thoughts flying back again, leaving him sad once more. It's just this vicious, miserable cycle. Pure thought, it turns out, just isn't enough.
Okay, so since that whole mind travel thing was a bust and only led to more pain, the speaker tries a totally new approach. He starts looking for substitutes, either physical or mental, anything at all to make the person he's missing feel present. And this kicks off this restless, almost frantic search for some kind of consolation. He's trying to pin down the beloved's image, to possess it in some real, tangible way, even when the person themselves is miles and miles away. And just look at the different ways he tries to do this. First, he imagines this whole legal battle raging inside his own body between his eye and his heart over who actually owns the beloved's picture. Then, he worries that unlike his other treasures, he can't just lock his beloved away in a chest to keep them safe. And finally, he tries to flip the script and reframe absence as a good thing, arguing that not seeing each other makes their rare meetings more precious, like a Captain Jewel in a necklace. But none of these little tricks are really satisfying. They're all just temporary fixes. So after all this struggling and failing, the speaker finally lands on his most audacious, and honestly, his most powerful solution.
And this is where he completely changes the game. He stops trying to solve the problem for just himself, for right now. Instead, he raises the stakes to this epic cosmic scale. The question is no longer just, how do I get through this? It's, how can love survive not just distance, but the ultimate separation of time and death itself?
He starts by listing off everything we usually think of as permanent. Marble tombs, golden monuments for princes, giant stone statues. and one by one he just knocks them all down. He says war destroys them, and what he calls sluttish time just lets them crumble into dust.
Which brings us to this absolutely staggering claim he makes. He declares that this very poem, these exact words you're reading, will outlive all of it. The verse itself is the one truly permanent thing in a world that's constantly falling apart.
I mean, this is it. This is the ultimate answer to absence. The poem becomes a living record. It isn't just a memory, it's a vehicle for actual immortality. He's saying that through this verse, his beloved will literally walk forward through history, escaping death and being forgotten, forever present for all future lovers to see. It's an incredible claim. Art conquers all.
But here's the twist. After that triumphant, soaring claim, the story doesn't end there. It closes with two of the absolute darkest sonnets in the entire collection, which explore the crushing human cost of all this incredible devotion. All that confident, powerful talk is suddenly gone. The speaker starts using the language of complete and total submission, describing himself as a vassal, a sad slave who is bound to serve his lord's every single whim.
And here's the painful irony, right? By carefully listing every single thing a sad slave is not allowed to think or do, he is, of course, basically screaming at us what he is feeling: bitter resentment, burning jealousy, and the profound pain of being totally forgotten.
And this is the devastating final line. It's a complete and total surrender. He has to wait, even though the waiting itself is hell. And even worse, he's not even allowed to have an opinion on what his beloved is doing. Whether their actions are ill or well, he just has to sit there and take it.
So we're left with this final haunting question. Shakespeare has shown us that art can offer this incredible kind of immortality, a victory over time and distance. But does that triumph somehow cancel out the suffering of the artist who had to create it? It seems the verse might live forever, but the poet remains trapped in the very human hell that gave it birth.